being at the manager level. Maybe you are tired of being at the director level and you're trying to figure out, what do I need to do to make that transition from manager to an executive role? If this is a question that you have been thinking about, this is going to be an important video for you to watch. I'm going to share with you 5 characteristics that you want to start working on immediately if you are at a point where you are a manager that is transitioning to an executive role, or maybe you are a director that's transitioning to an executive role, or maybe you are an executive and there's a couple of aspects that you are struggling with, or you're noticing your influence is not the way that it was before. This is going to be a video that will help you to refine some of the characteristics that allowed you to transition to an executive role to begin with. Now, I have 5. I have 5, but there are so many more that I can talk about. And depending on how our live goes this evening, I will go into as many as I can. I want to start at least with the top 5 first. I do have a couple other ones that we can discuss also. If you are new to me, my name is Dr. Jacinta, and if you are one of my absolutely amazing subscribers, welcome back, friend. This channel heavily focuses in on advanced communication skills and strategies that will help you to communicate more confidently and concisely in those very high stakes, high pressure situations. This is the only channel on YouTube that has over 1,100 videos here that are dedicated to high stakes, high pressure communication, especially in a live format. If you are trying to elevate yourself, or maybe you are that person that is tired of not knowing what to say, tired of freezing in front of a group of people, or tired of rambling and over explaining when you know you need to be a bit more concise to move forward, this is the best channel for you to watch on YouTube. Now, as I mentioned, there are five characteristics that you want to start working on. Now, I'm going to go over them very quickly before the live audience joins, and then depending on the time that we have, I can go into a lot more detail, but we'll see where we end up landing. The first characteristic that you want to start working on or enhancing as you are transitioning from manager to director, or director to executive, or executive trying to refine your skills, is to think strategically. The second is going to be to think under pressure. Third is communicating under pressure. Fourth is going to be managing your emotions. And fifth is going to be public speaking. Now, you want to watch this video until the end, because depending on how much time we have, how many questions you all have for me, I will share with you at least two more, maybe 3, that can help you on your journey so that you are making that transition. I want to say hello to Zahir. Hello, Zahir. How you doing today? Welcome, welcome. The Zahir says, hi, how are you? I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for the heart emojis. I appreciate you. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you are joining from today. And let me know if you are at a place where you're trying to make that transition from manager to executive, wherever you are on that path. Let me know what questions you have. What are some of the challenges that you are facing? I am sharing with you over 20 years worth of expertise being in senior executive roles. I have seen countless leaders, women in my direct target audience that are women in leadership. I've seen men in leadership that are struggling with these characteristics. And when they struggle with these characteristics, they tend to not make that transition to the executive roles that they are looking for. So we're going to dive into them today. This is Friday night. For those of you that are new to my channel, Friday night is Q&A. You're welcome to ask me any questions as it relates to topics that are professional, that are high stakes, high pressure communication. If you're dealing with a challenging situation, this is the best time during the week to ask me any questions, because I have a lot more time to spend with you. Okay, Zahir says, where are you from? Zahir, I am from the United States, based out of South Florida. I hope you're doing well. Let me know where you all are joining from in the big, beautiful world today. The very first, well, let me go into this really quickly. Zahir, yes, Zahir asks, you have Instagram. Yes, I do have an Instagram account. Zahir, my Instagram is at Excite Excellence. The link is in the description below on this channel also. And I have a lot of content there. I have more content here on YouTube. This is the best place for you to be if you're trying to elevate how you communicate in front of a group of people. Feel free to subscribe and take a look at a couple of the playlists I have listed as well. Now, when it comes to these characteristics, I mentioned I'm going to talk about 5, and we'll see where the conversation goes if I can do more. When you're trying to make that transition from manager to executive, I have to start our conversation today by saying one piece of advice that sets the tone for everything else we're going to talk about. And that is, when you are trying to make that transition, you will have to do or be willing to do what other people are not willing to do. Now, I'm going to explain exactly what I'm talking about here. Being willing to do what other people are not willing to do. Many people ask me, what exactly does that mean? It means that you have to become the exception. There has to be something about you that is very unique compared to everybody else. And if you are at a place where you simply do not want to put in extra work, or you don't want to invest in your time or invest financially to transition to that next level of being an executive, I'm going to let you know right now, you might not make it. It may be more challenging for you to do that. There comes a point where you have to be the person that learns as much as possible in your industry, in your discipline, and be able to truly invest in your time and invest in yourself financially to grow and continue to learn more. As I mentioned, for those of you watching, hello and welcome, welcome. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you all are joining from today, and what questions you have as it relates to transitioning from a manager to an executive. Put in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Zahir says, I am following you. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for the heart emojis, friends. My first characteristic, if you're trying to make that transition that I mentioned at the very beginning of our live, is to think strategically. Now, when I say the word think strategically, what comes to your mind? What are some of the thoughts? What is the first thing that comes to your mind when I say think strategically as a leader? What are you thinking about? I'll share with you a couple insights while I'm waiting for responses to come in. When I'm referring to thinking strategically, it means you will want to develop the ability to think about what is going to happen in the future. One of the challenges and one of the very common struggles that I see many people that are in leadership roles and they're trying to make that transition to an executive level role is that they're so heavily focused in on the task at hand, the task that they're dealing with, that they do not take the time to think about what happens in the future. Now, many of you know that I've interacted with congressional leaders over the past 20 years here in the United States. I have read very lengthy pieces of legislation. I have a very deep appreciation of how policies are made because I've helped to contribute to some of those policies. And I do want to tell you, if you can remember this one statement that I learned from analyzing policies and reviewing policies and legislation over the years, it will help you to start thinking more strategically. Are you ready? One of the things that you will want to remember is when I first started off in policy and reading policies and etc., I had to understand, well, how do you make policies? And the key factor to making policies that will help you to think strategically is that when you are making decisions that may impact your organization or your team in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, it's going to be really important for you to think about what are some of those intended and unintended consequences that could happen based off of the decision that you are making. How many of you have been with leaders that have made decisions that they simply did not take the time to think through thoroughly to make sure it would not impact your department specifically? I've been in situations like that, and I know many of you have been in situations like that also. This is the reason why thinking strategically is critically important. And most of the times when someone's trying to make that transition from manager to executive, they have a hard time doing this. They're too focused in on the task. What is the KPI? What is the metric they need to achieve or reach? But they have a hard time thinking ahead. Well, what's going to happen? If I do this, then what happens? It comes down to preparing. And most of the time when you are trying to prepare, the key is to make sure that you are preparing, but you are thinking about what can happen in the future. Take what I learned from policy analysis to help you be able to master thinking strategically. How will your decision impact the organization years from now, a couple years from now, or tomorrow? Think more ahead in terms of what is going to happen. All right, let me go to the chat really quickly. Okay, Zahir says, I'm follow, go and see Zahir Honey Singh. Okay, fantastic. Zahir says, I am professional, go and see. Absolutely, I'll take a look. Then don't shock. Okay, so I think you're talking about what I mentioned specifically as it relates to what do you think about when you hear the word strategically or thinking strategically. Okay, we have TRST. I want to say Monkeever. Hopefully I had it correctly. Hope you're doing well today. The second strategy or second characteristic that you will want to start working on specifically when you are trying to make that transition from manager to director. Remember what I said at the beginning. You have to be willing to do what other people are not willing to do. So remember that in the back of your mind. This is going to be very, very important to you moving forward. We talked about how to think strategically. Now we're going to talk about how to think under pressure. That is the other aspect of leadership that I see people struggle with when they're trying to make it or trying to transition from a manager role to an executive role or director to an executive, is that they have a hard time thinking under pressure. Now, when I say thinking under pressure, what is the first word that comes to your mind? What is the first thing you think of when I say thinking under pressure? What does that mean to you? And I'll share with you a couple of insights that I have as it relates to this topic specifically, because it can be somewhat challenging when you are trying to think under pressure. Now, strategic thinking and thinking under pressure are completely different. Strategic thinking, as we discussed, is thinking ahead, planning ahead. What are those intended, unintended consequences that you might experience based on the decision that you're making? When you are thinking under pressure, that means what are you able to do and how are you able to process information when you do not have time to process it? Let me give you an example. We talk about this at length on the channel. There are several videos that talk about thinking on your feet, thinking under pressure, and etc. So take some time to look at the playlists that are listed on my channel. They will help you tremendously when it comes to this specifically. But to give you some context in terms of what I'm referring to, when it comes to thinking under pressure, you want to have some type of way or some type of system that you make decisions as a leader. What is your decision-making process? How do you make decisions? I've shared with my audience multiple times how I make decisions. I tend to gather as much data as I can so that I can make an informed decision. I don't like to make decisions if I don't have as much data as I can. A lot of times when you're transitioning or you're dealing with high pressure, high stakes situations, you may not be able to have access to all the information, but you still have to make a decision anyways. That's fine, but get as much as you can. So I like to gather a lot of data. I determine, is this a fire? Do I have to deal with this right now? Is this something I can deal with later? All of these things will help you to start making your own way of making decisions. Now take a look at a couple of my videos. I'll talk about them briefly as we're discussing our content today, but take a look at my videos that talk about thinking and making decisions under pressure, because that will help you be able to start learning how do you think under pressure, because many people, they struggle with this. Many people that are already executives, they struggle with this. So if you can start learning how to develop this characteristic now, it will help you make that transition from manager to director. All right, I want to say hello to Ed Brooke. High five, Ed. Good to see you, friend. How you doing today, Ed? Ed says, do you remember me? Ed, of course I remember you, friend. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel and looking forward to you interacting or asking any questions so I can support you today. We've talked about two aspects, two characteristics that you want to start working on right now if you're trying to make that manage that transition to go from manager to director or director to executive. We've talked about two. And for Ed, because Ed is a follower, Ed, I'm going to go over the two just for you, friend. The first was strategic thinking. Being able to think more strategically in terms of how are the decisions that you're making going to impact your organization, your business, and etc. 6 months from now, a year from now, what is happening in the industry, what are some of the trends, etc. And the second one we talked about is being able to think under pressure. The third characteristic that you want to start working on is being able to communicate under pressure. Now, when you think of the word communicate under pressure, what is the first topic the first thought that comes to mind? Put it in the comments below. Let's talk about it. When I'm referring to thinking or communicating under pressure, remember, strategic thinking, thinking under pressure, and communicating under pressure are completely different. The latter two I just mentioned are completely different, even though pressure is still in the title of both of them. How you think under pressure and how you communicate under pressure is completely different. The reason why I say communicate under pressure is that many leaders or people that are trying to make that transition from those manager roles to executive roles, etc., they don't know how to communicate under pressure. This is where the freeze response comes into play, where people, they have thought through it. Maybe they've thought through the situation. They're able to think under pressure. They can make decisions, but they do not know how to articulate that to the rest of the group in a way that people understand it. Usually this will happen when you are not at the point where you are ready to make that transition to executive. Because when you turn into an executive or start an executive role, the way you communicate really does matter. It is very important. You have to be able to present your information in a way that is clear to the audience and allows them to be either influenced or persuaded by what you are specifically trying to say. Being able to do this is critically important, and I want to make sure that you all are in a very solid place as it relates to communicating under pressure. Now, before I go into this more, I want to say hello and welcome to those of you watching the live today. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you all are joining from today, and what are some challenges that you're facing right now as you're transitioning to executive roles in your career? Put it in the comments below. This is Q&A Friday night. You're welcome to ask me any questions as it relates to this topic specifically, or those very high stakes, high pressure communication challenges or conversations you have coming up. I'm here to support you in a way that I can. All right, we have, I'm going to say KUI. Okay, I'm going to say KUI, TKD, KDD. Hello, hope you're doing well today. As where am I from? I'm from the United States, based out of the Sunshine State of Florida. Communicating under pressure, as I mentioned, is incredibly important. Being that person that can have the room watching you and staring at you and still be able to deliver a difficult message or a very timely and sensitive topic will help you out tremendously for trying to make that transition from manager to director. If you are at a point where you are not able to communicate under pressure or you're struggling with this is why you subscribe to this channel. This channel, as I mentioned at the beginning, has over 1,100 videos that are dedicated to high stakes, high pressure situations and conversations that will help you. Now, there's only but so much that I can do being in front of the World Wide Web. There does come a point where you have to invest in yourself, as I mentioned earlier, and let's work together. I'll be happy to support you. Take a look at my website at exciteexcellence.org. There's many ways that we can work with each other and get you to where you need to be. My high stakes communication intensive will completely change your life, especially how you are communicating. And if communicating under pressure is something that you are struggling with, I will help you to be able to do this in the form of a reflex where it's not so challenging for you to speak under pressure. Many PR companies and PR firms, they focus more on giving you a script and telling you this is exactly what you need to say. But what I do specifically is I help you to start being able to manage those interactions and those challenges in real time so that you're not so heavily dependent on the script, because when you are depending on the script, you sound fake and it doesn't sound authentic, and I don't want you to do that. Communicating under pressure is critical. So this is the reason why we talk about this so much on the channel. Now, my fourth characteristic that you absolutely want to start working on if you're trying to make that transition from manager to executive is managing your emotions. How many of you have worked with an overly emotional manager or director or executive? I have many times in my career. This is the reason why I bring this up, because many people struggle with this. And if you're trying to make this transition, and I'm telling you these characteristics you need to have now, because I have seen so many very talented people, women in leadership. I've seen some talented men in leadership that are not able to make it because of the 5 characteristics I'm sharing with you now that you want to start working on. Being able to manage your emotions under pressure is critically important. And let me explain to you why. When you're presenting yourself as an executive, you have to be at a place where you can be unbiased as much as you can as it relates to some of those very hot topics and challenges that come up. Why is this? Because if you are an executive and you respond in an overly or highly emotional way, it shows that you do not have control of your emotions. Now, I do want to say that there are situations, there are circumstances that I'm going to somewhat give you a lead into my fifth strategy that require you to express emotions, but they have to be controlled and measured and well thought of, especially when you are in an executive role. I'll give you a scenario. Many years ago, I used to work with a director, and this director specifically had a hard time managing their emotions under pressure. And what would happen is when hard information or challenges came up from the top, it always comes top down. There's some pressure, there's some drama. People come and put the pressure on the people below them, and then they put the pressure on the people below them, and etc. This individual could not manage their emotions under pressure, meaning that whenever they were in a very difficult conversation with their superiors or whoever they were reporting to, and they would come back to their peers or their team members, they would bring that same energy, that same distress, that same upsetness to the conversation. They could not handle their emotions under pressure. When you're trying to transition as an executive, you have to manage your emotions under pressure. This is a non-negotiable. There's a lot of people that are in executive roles right now that really struggle with this. You will see this on social media now. You see it with our world leaders. People really do struggle with communicating under pressure. And this is the reason why I mentioned this specifically, because if you can start working on this characteristic, it will help you to be the person that can be very calm when pressure is rising or is definitely an issue when it comes to a specific situation. How many of you have been in situations where your leader has been very upset or frustrated with a particular situation? How did it make you feel as the follower? Or maybe even as the leader? It makes you feel that sense of chaos, that sense of hopelessness that average, yes, I did say average leaders will bring to people. If you want to be exceptional, and if you want to be the person, the leader that stands out from everybody else, that has a very unfair competitive advantage over everybody else, then managing your emotions under pressure is going to be a non-negotiable skill you have to develop. Now, you could be saying, I don't know how to do that. I can't do that. I just have to say it. I just have to say what's on my mind. That's how I think. That's how I talk. Well, let me tell you something right now. Saying what's on your mind and giving yourself the excuse to say this is how you communicate and this is how you talk and this is just how it is the reason why you're not moving forward. Now, I know that may be difficult for some people to hear, but I am telling you, I've heard so many people say this. They will repeat, this is just how I communicate, this is how I talk, and etc. And then they wonder, why am I not able to increase my salary? Why am I not able to transition into a different role, and etc. There comes a point in time where you have to be authentic. And I am a very, very huge advocate of that. Authenticity is important. That's what makes you you. But you have to be controlled in terms of how you communicate, regardless of if you're being your authentic self and talking the way you want to talk or not. I'm sharing with you what's going to help you be able to go to the executive level, not what's going to help you stay at the manager level, and definitely not what's going to help you to stay at the director level. If you're subscribed to my channel, or you're following my content, or you're one of my amazing clients that I have worked with, you know that I'm here for you and I want you to grow. I don't want you to stay stuck in the place that you're in. And if I came here and told you that say what you want to say exactly what it is you want to say it, and you'll be able to transition as executive, I would not be myself and I would not be telling you accurate information. People that tell you that, those are the people that are going to prevent you from being able to move forward. Now, That's my very humble opinion, but I've seen a lot of people say the same thing, the same excuse. I just have to say what I have to say. I have to speak it my way. I just have to speak it my way. You do have to speak it your way. That's why you work with me specifically, to help you speak it in your tone of voice, but speak it in a way to where it sounds very engaging. It sounds polished, but you are still saying what is true to you and what's on your mind specifically. This is why I'm here to support you on the channel. So we talked about managing your emotions, and as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm not going into a ton of detail with all of these today, but I have some insights to share with you, of course. But there's a lot of videos here on my YouTube channel. If you take a look at my playlist, there's several videos that will help you with each one of these, but I wanted to give you something just to work with for today. All right, I want to say hello to Jamie P.O. Hope you're doing well today. And Jamie P.O., I see what you're talking about. I'm sorry to hear about that. We are talking about how to transition from manager to executive. This is a topic that really focuses in on very high stakes, high pressure situations, and hope you're getting some value out of the information we're discussing today. Now, my fifth, and I won't say final, just depends on how we go with the conversation today. But my fifth strategy that I want to share with you specifically as it relates to how you are going to be able to make that transition from manager to executive is something that many people are going to probably be upset with me about, but I'm going to have to say it anyways. Are you ready? Are you really ready? Become a better public speaker. Now, before you click off this video and say, no, I don't want to do that, give me just 1 minute to explain why this will help you to become that person that can transition from a manager to an executive. When you think of public speaking, for those of you watching the live today, welcome, welcome. Let me know where you're joining from today. When you are thinking of public speaking, when you hear the word public speaking, what's the first word that comes to mind? Put in the comments below. What do you think about? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear public speaking? Public speaking will change your life. It will help you to be at a level that is nowhere near comparison to anyone else. Why do I mention this as a characteristic, a trait that you want to start developing as a leader? The reason why I mention public speaking is a critical trait that you want to develop, or skill you want to develop as a leader and you're transitioning to an executive role, is that most people are completely terrified of public speaking. Therefore, if you can be the person that can communicate well in public and can do some of the other characteristics I shared with you earlier in the live, you will automatically stand out from everybody else. And I do want to let you know something that people may not talk about. When you transition to an executive role, you are no longer the average leader. You are the person that is typically the face of your business. You're the face of your organization. You're the face of your department. And being the face of a department or organization or business means that you're going to need to speak in front of people. You may be caught off guard. You may have a media appearance where someone calls you and says, oh, by the way, we need you to be at this particular news station this afternoon to discuss this situation or this event or this problem that you're going to be leading. You have to be ready to speak in public at all times. This is more of a secret because many people think public speaking is for TED Talks or TEDx Talks. They think it's for conferences. They believe it is only for special occasions when you're speaking in front of a group of people. And I want to let you know that public speaking, friends, public speaking is for your day-to-day conversations. And the faster and the sooner that you grasp this skill, you will be at a point where you have a very unfair competitive advantage over everybody else as a leader. I talk about this a lot on my channel, and I mentioned to you, and this is more just a summary for those of you who might be new to me, but my subscribers know exactly where I'm going with this. There are 3 aspects of communication that people really struggle with, and this is a bonus, but people struggle with eye contact, facial expressions, and silence in a conversation. When you become a better public speaker, you will need to learn how to master all of those. Why? Because most people struggle with them. And if most people struggle with this, then wouldn't you think that you would probably stand out if you didn't struggle with them? Think about it. This is the reason why this characteristic will help you to transition from manager to executive. Now, is this a requirement? Do you have to have public speaking to be an executive? No, you do not have to be a public speaker to be an executive. But if you're really trying to stand out and be exceptional, this is something you definitely want to have. And that's the reason why you subscribe to this channel. This channel is here to give you the skills, the techniques, the resources, my over 20 years worth of experience being in friendly and contentious situations to help you be the exception. I don't want you to be average. I want you to be exceptional if that is the path that you choose to go. If you want to stay average and you want to be average, there's nothing wrong with that, friend. Nothing wrong at all. But I want my audience to be those people that when individuals interact with them or speak with them, they say, wow, this person is amazing. Where did they come from? How did they learn how to communicate so well? And how do they communicate so calmly under pressure? That's what I want to do here in this world, is to help you all be able to people that can do that also. Now, I have a couple more. I believe I'm going to have time to go over them. I'm going to go over these pretty quickly because these characteristics, or I would say insights rather, that you want to keep in mind as you are trying to make that transition from manager to executive. And if you are an executive already, I hope that the information I've shared with you allows you to think about what you might be doing right now and ways that you can enhance or refine these characteristics that I shared that were more than likely a key factor into you becoming an executive, that perhaps if you're losing your influence or you are not persuading others as you used to, there may be some aspects of it that you want to improve upon. If you are in that executive category and you're struggling with this, reach out to me at exciteexcellence.org. We will find a way to help you overcome this and completely transform the way you're communicating so you can get back to where you were. Okay, now if it's okay with you, I'll go over, let's see, I have at least probably 3 more I can think of off the top of my head that I can help you with. When you're making that transition from manager to director, another critical part of this process is your ability to read people. Now, I know many of you will say, Dr. Jacinta, there's no way I can read someone. No, yes, oh yes, you can. You can absolutely read someone. If you think that you can't, then you definitely need to spend some time with me. Spend some time with me on my channel here. Spend some time with my amazing subscribers. Spend some time with us because we talk about this all the time. I have a lot of videos here that talk about reading people, and if you follow them, I will make you a believer that you can read people. I promise I will. But reading people is going to be very important for you as you're transitioning from a manager to an executive role. Let me explain to you why. If you can read people, this is a secret. This is how you become exceptional. Not average, but exceptional. If you can read people, you will be able to change your message, the direction of a conversation in real time based on what you are seeing with the other people that are in the room. Many times when leaders go into conversations with other individuals, they have their own agenda in place. And you do have to have an agenda. There may be a conversation you're having, you need to have it with someone. Completely understand that. You have to have your talking points of what you want to discuss. However, if you can pay very close attention to someone in terms of what they're saying, how they're saying it, when they're saying it, and their nonverbal and verbal gestures, or verbal, I would say nonverbal gestures specifically, and verbally what they're saying, it will tell you a lot about the conversation in terms of what that person is thinking. Now, you may find individuals like myself or individuals that have been trained to communicate in high-stakes situations where it's going to be very difficult for you to understand specifically where they're coming from. What are they thinking in their head? You may not know just because we're trained to function in that way, depending on the topic and the situation that's coming into play. If I know, and this is for me personally, I'm in a very high-stakes, high-pressure situation, the person you see here communicating with you is the same person in the same way I communicate in those situations, but I am more hyper focused on what is actually being said, and I'm very closely reading the person to see what is going on in their mind or what they're thinking. If it's someone that perhaps has been trained to speak and been trained to communicate in those very high stakes, high pressure situations, then they may be a little harder to read, but ultimately, depending on the level that they're at, you will probably be able to pick up on what they're really thinking about. Being able to read people is critically important. It will allow you to change the direction of a conversation and respond to it in real time. For example, if you find yourself in a conversation with someone and maybe you're having a difficult conversation and you find that this person feels like they're being attacked or they're being penalized or put under a microscope, they'll let you know that, and you have to be able to change gears pretty quickly so that this person doesn't try to claim that you're being very mean to them and etc. This is the reason why reading people is going to be very important. Another characteristic, and these are my bonus ones I'm sharing with you, another characteristic that will be able to help you whenever these situations come up specifically is to get a grasp of office politics. Now, I know many of you are going to tell me, and we've talked about this a lot on the channel, office politics is something that you don't want to deal with, you don't have time for, and all that. I understand. Office politics is something that no one wants to deal with at all. But I do want to share this with you. You are going to need to know what's going on in the office or in your business or in your organization to a certain extent if you're trying to transition from a manager to a director, manager to an executive. Because knowing who the key players are and who are the individuals that are more influential in your business, in your organization, or in your communities, depending on the role, if you're a public official, is going to be very important for you to have at least a grasp of in this transition. I'm sharing with you skills that will help you to transition to an executive role. If you are able to understand that, yes, office politics is something that no one wants to deal with, but appreciate and accept the reality that this is a part of the role you're trying to transition to, it will help you out tremendously to be able to start being the person that knows a lot about a little bit. And that tells you just how you can start to navigate these situations. I know this person works with this individual. I know they have a partnership outside of the organization, or I know that this project worked really well within our organization, or this project did not go well, and I know there was a bit of a disagreement between two people. All of those aspects are helpful for you to know. Do you need to act on all of those pieces or insights of information that you have? No, absolutely not. You do not. But this is information just for you to know. This is how the world of politics works. Now, my final insight, I would say rather, that you will want to start working on if you're trying to make that transition from a manager to an executive, is to be very comfortable with data analysis. Now, I know this is something that you're probably not expecting me to say, especially as it relates to high stakes communication. But for those of you who know me pretty well, you probably thought that was going to come up. Because many times when I'm communicating with my audience here, I tell you that when you're speaking in front of a group of people, have some type of data in mind. Because that data itself will allow you to be that person that instantly has some credibility because you know some hard statistics about a specific issue. What I mean by data analysis means that it's important to start learning how to read data. What do the numbers mean? And bring meaning to those numbers so that the next time you have a difficult conversation or you are put on the spot or you have to think on your feet, you know what these numbers can mean and how to leverage those numbers to support what you're trying to say, to influence people or to persuade them. Data is so important. Data is important. Of course, knowing how to read your profit and loss statements, your KPIs is one part of it. But data analysis is where you think through, how does this key data point impact operations, impact the organization, impact your business? That is where executives reside. They reside in data analysis. They know if my collections rate is at this percentage, then there's a problem with how we are communicating or how we're collecting our funds or etc. This is how executives think. We think in that way. We want to know what are the data points, what numbers do we need to look at, what KPIs do we need to review, but not just to look at the numbers. We need to know the story behind the numbers, because if you are an executive, knowing the story behind the numbers will help you to make those decisions when you need to, that will allow you to think strategically and plan ahead for what could happen, what may not happen 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road based on what you are seeing so far. I hope this gives you some insight to consider, especially if you're making that transition from manager to executive. Now, if you have some questions, let me know in the comments below. I do want to know from you, which of the characteristics, skills that I shared with you today was the one characteristic or skill that you're going to start working on today, immediately, that you know might be holding you up from making that transition from manager to executive. Or maybe if you are an executive, you know that you're struggling with this, and there's this particular characteristic that was able to help you get to your executive role, maybe something that you need to refine or work on. Put in the comments below. Let's talk about it. I do read all of my comments and will absolutely respond to you. If you want me to go into more detail on any of these topics, let me know in the comments below. I will do a video just for you and give you a shout out on the video depending on the depth that's required. I will absolutely do something for you to help you be able to overcome whatever it is that you're struggling with right now. Before I finish up, I do want to let you know a couple of things. I appreciate your patience this week with me as it relates to where I'm filming and which device I'm filming on and etc. I have had the opportunity to live stream on my iPhone, as I have been for over the past year and a half now, and I have live streamed on the desktop. I will say, for those of you who have YouTube channels or maybe have content creators here on YouTube, there may be a difference between when you live stream or where you live stream, rather. If you are a smaller content creator, if you're a larger one, it may not impact you as much. But if you're a smaller content creator, you may gain more traction doing lives on your phone than on desktop. I will let you know. I'm going to still work with both, because as I mentioned, I'm working on my studio. I'm developing a few things, which is the reason why I'm able to record from my webcam as I did earlier this week. But I do want to let you know that there's different type of content that you're going to see coming out of the channel now that I have a webcam. My lives, the schedule is still going to be the same. And if you're new to me, I typically go live at least 7 to 8 times a week. The timing of my lives, if you look through my post on my communities tab and scroll down, I'll try to see if I can figure out a way to pin it so people know. But I do have a specific schedule, a specific time frame when my audience knows that Dr. Jacinta is more than likely going to be live. If there's any changes that happen or I can't make it, I will send you all a message or a post earlier in the day or whenever I can to let you know I can't make it. But there is a schedule that's there. But I'm saying this because I'm at the point where I am in a very solid position where I can start doing more content that is even going to impact you even more than what we've done so far. There is going to be more educational content, meaning I'm going to have a bit more visuals with it. That's going to come up on my webcam. So you will start to see some live streams that will be more instructional. All of my live streams are instructional, but I may have some elements. I may have some screen shares that I will do. When I have those, it will be on my webcam. I've found a way to be able to navigate this on YouTube where I can share my screen and be able to show you presentations and etc. based on the topic. So if there's a topic that I believe that I want to go into a lot more detail on, I will absolutely put that on my webcam. If it's a topic as we've done for the past year and a half, and I appreciate you all for being so supportive and getting the channel very close to a tremendous YouTube milestone, being at 1,000 subscribers, there's I still will be doing the same, still live videos and etc. But you'll start seeing a bit more reaction videos come out. Some of the reaction videos are going to be pre-recorded, meaning that I'm going to look at world leaders, or I'm going to look at individuals here or in whichever country that you live in, if you want me to take a look at them and see what are some aspects of the way they communicate under pressure that you could potentially utilize in your day-to-day conversations, or maybe what are some aspects of the way they communicate under pressure that you absolutely do not want to use in your day-to-day conversations. I'll be doing pre-recorded videos on that, but I'm also going to do some live videos of that. Also, those will come on the webcam. So I will do what I can, because right now I do see a slight difference. I have to do a lot more to confirm that. But I do see a difference between the engagement when I am live on my iPhone compared to the engagement when I'm live on my webcam. I don't have enough data to say what I think just yet, but I'm going to test it out a bit over the next week or so. So you'll see different settings. Just know that I'm testing it out so that I know exactly how I want to communicate with my audience, depending on what I'm going to do. If I'm going to do a reaction content and I'm going to do it live with you, then this is something that I will probably do on my webcam, and I'll do a bit more promoting of that so that you all can join. If it's my typical lives, then it will typically more than likely come from my iPhone specifically. If you have any topics that you want to learn more about, if you have any challenging situations you're dealing with right now, please come to me for the hard things, the hard situations, the complex situations that you just don't want to talk to anybody about because it's so hard and you're not sure how to professionally navigate it. That's what I'm here for. My expertise is in very high stakes, high pressure situations, dealing with complex and challenging scenarios and situations. That's what I'm here for. So come to me, let me know. You're welcome to reach out to me on Instagram, LinkedIn. All of the handles and links to my channels or links to my accounts are listed in the description below. If it's something more sensitive, you're always welcome to send me a direct message. If you happen to have a topic that you're okay with people knowing about, then put it in the comments below and I'll do a video just for you. There is another aspect of the channel that you're going to start see occurring. I do not have everything finalized just yet, but you will start seeing lives over the weekend. I will not be physically live over the weekend, but there are several of my playlists or several videos that I'm going to schedule to have them be played live that can help you on your journey. So you'll start seeing a bit more movement on the channel. I mean, there's always been movement on the channel. That's why you all are here and supporting me. But there's always movement here. But I just want to at least be able to communicate with you that you are going to start seeing different types of content here. And I want to hear from you. Let me know what type of content that you want to see. And I'd be more than happy to do a video for you and start developing content around that specifically. I appreciate you all so much. We are at 931 subscribers when I checked earlier today. Getting to 1,000 is a milestone, and I could not do this obviously without you, without all of you that are my amazing subscribers. I appreciate you so much for helping me to get to this milestone. Less than 10% of the creators on YouTube reach 1,000 subscribers. Let that sink in for a second. We are very close to it. And once we reach 1,000 subscribers, I do want to do something fun for the audience. So definitely take a look at my communities tab because I'm going to do a poll. I'm going to start working on that probably within the next week or so because I anticipate reaching 1,000 within the next, I'd say, month or less or so. And I want to make sure that we have something to celebrate with whenever we reach that milestone. I appreciate you all. Feel free to share this information to your friends, your colleagues, your loved ones that are in that middle where they know they've been trying to make that transition and they haven't been able to do it. You're welcome to take a look at some of my videos here. If you're new to me, a couple of key videos that will help you start communicating in those very high stakes, high pressure situations will be thinking on your feet, managing your emotions under pressure, eye contact, facial expression, and managing silence in a conversation. Any videos on my live tab that talk about that will help you with those specific skills you need as a high stakes communicator immediately. So definitely take a look at those first. You're welcome to take a look at the playlist on the channel. They're here to support you and let me know how I can support you. I appreciate you all so much for being a part of an amazing journey that I have.